Good evening, everyone. I'm Kristen Farley. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. 1 year ago tomorrow, 2 bombs went off at the Boston Marathon. On that day, 3 people were killed and more than 250 were injured. Tamerlan and Johar Tsarnaev were quickly identified as suspects in the bombings. Tamerlan was killed during a firefight with police the day of the bombing. Johar is awaiting trial for his part in the bombing still. Organizers of this year's race are beefing up security, but hope to maintain the spirit of the marathon's rich tradition. And the bombings did not shake the resolve of runners all across the world. Joining us now here today, one of those runners, Tara Stockton. Tara, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Now, as we just said, you're planning on running, so you'll be there 1 week from today.
Yes.
Tell me, was this a difficult or emotional decision for you to make to actually go back to Boston?
No, not at all. I mean, as far as being a difficult decision, I'm a person that I don't live in fear. You know, I live by faith. So it was just an automatic, you know, to immediately register. When I had the invitation, I didn't hesitate.
Now, all of the people who ran last year who did not finish were automatically invited back. So there was no qualifying this year, correct?
That's correct.
So tell me a little bit about, for the viewers at home who don't remember, where were you on the course when the bombings went off?
I was at the 25.5-mile mark and just right there close to the finish line.
And could you actually hear the bombs? Could you hear the blast?
I couldn't hear the blast because I run with headsets, but it was one of those things you could tell that something was wrong with the people on the course. I mean, the course just got real cluttered, and that's not a norm at all.
I've been looking at some of the raw footage from that day recently for stories that we're working on, and there was almost a lot of chaos, as you can imagine, at the end, right there at the finish line. So when did you know that something like this had happened? How did you know how serious it was? What was it like? Kind of, a lot of runners describe it as they were just left wandering on the course.
Yeah, you know, when I had a runner come towards me in the opposite direction he was running, and he was screaming out that the race had been stopped, of course, you know, you immediately are just confused at that point. And then when you actually get to the point that they stop the run, you know, you immediately start turning to people that are on the sides, and you start asking questions, and then they all started telling us. So it was a very eerie feeling.
I imagine it was. And of course, this year they are beefing up security, as we just said. They don't want to ruin the spirit of the race. But as a participant, what kind of literature or I guess messages are you getting from race organizers? How will things be different this year?
I think there will be so much security that it would be very difficult to have anybody come in without them noticing. They have added double the amount of law enforcement. They have added more cameras. There's like 100 cameras that are up and down the course. They've actually have one thing that they said, these areas just to observe the runners more than what they had. So they're going to have a lot of different security than they did have.
And race bag check, you know, a lot of people who aren't runners may not know, but like your keys, maybe a chocolate milk or something you want at the end of the race, you can actually check a bag usually that will be there for you at the end of the race. Has that changed? I thought I read something about how things like that might be changing as well.
It has, and it's as far as bringing, you can't bring any kind of bag on the bus at all. And so the bags you can have checked bags, but it's way before you actually get on the bus. And in the past, you were able to take your bag with you on a bus while they moved you to the starting line where you could check it at that point. So all those type things, they're just taking the little bit extra precaution.
Extra precaution. Let me ask, you know, the atmosphere at a race of this magnitude, it's always so supportive. Runners are so supportive of one another. But there's going to be a level of emotion, I would imagine, this year. How do you think that's going to change? Do you think that the feeling will be different at the start than it was last year?
I think it will be, you know, and it's kind of hard, you know, I've tried to imagine it myself, and you know, I guess I really don't know. You know, you can imagine a few things, but until you can experience, until I can tell, you know, how it was, how you feel, because, you know, you have all kinds of emotions, and I have emotions just watching, you know, just like all the specials that's on TV. You get very emotional.
Yeah, I imagine that you do, as someone who was there and as someone who is going back. And of course, I asked you when you walked into the studio, are you ready? Are you ready to run the 26.2?
I'm ready to run.
We are looking forward to the updates, and of course, we will be thinking of you 1 week from today. Best of luck to you out there.
Thank you.
We appreciate it, Tara. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
All right, everyone, and of course, there are some other runners out there with East Tennessee connections returning to Boston in the next few days. You may recall former UT swimmers Michael and Nicole Gross and Nicole's sister Erica. They were there to see the girl's mother run the marathon last year. All three were blown back by the bomb there at the finish line, and it has been quite a year of recovery for them. Nicole's mother-in-law, Susan Gross, still lives here in East Tennessee. She and the rest of the family are returning to Boston this week. She shares their story and also find out who from their family will be running this year. That's coming up tonight on 6 News at 11.